You know, I've talked a lot about how I think that VTubing is really cool behind the scenes and everything that you do in order to set up a VTuber, but I have never really shown you guys what that process is like behind the scenes and what it looks like for me. So I thought it'd be interesting if we had a little video where I talk about those sort of things and maybe do sort of a tutorial-esque viewpoint on all of this so that you guys can see what it is like. And maybe also if this ends up helping you with setting up your own VTuber, you can do that as well. I'm going to do sort of a two-part series for this. This first video, we're going to talk about the hardware and the things that you physically need in order to VTube. And in the next video, we will talk about software, VTube Studio in general, and how to set up things like parameters and your model. Specifically in this video, I'm going to be talking about the 3 items that you need in order to start VTubing, and then talk through the final item and why you would prefer going a certain way over the other. The pros and cons for your tracking system and how exactly you want to set it up. The first thing that you are going to need to get started with VTubing is a computer. Believe it or not, there is a way that you can do VTubing things on a phone. However, I really don't know anybody who uses their model on their phone. There is probably somebody out there who does, but for the most part, everybody is using their computer in order to do this. The second thing that you need is the application VTube Studio. This is available through Steam. It is free, so we don't have to worry about that. And that is the thing that loads the model and shows it out to the world. So it's kind of a little bit important. Now, when you are in VTube Studio, there are a couple of different ways that you can set up tracking, which is just basically a camera that views your face and puts the way that you are moving onto the model. It's the way that your model moves around, and everything that you do, the model does as well. And that is where a lot of this discussion is going to go for hardware, because there are 2 main different ways that you can track your face. For this video in particular, I'm going to go through webcam tracking with you guys, show you how to set that up and what that is like. We'll go through some pros and cons of why you would want to use webcam tracking, and then we will talk about iPhone tracking, because I feel like you'll understand a lot of what I'm saying if I show you webcam tracking first. So in VTube Studio, you're generally going to see something like this with this background. I'm pretty sure this is the default background. I normally just choose to have a black background, and then as well, your model. Now, VTube Studio comes with a couple of different starter models, so you can try out the tracking and see how it goes. You don't have to have a customized model like I do. However, for the purposes of this tutorial, this showcasing, I'm going to be using my customizable model. And generally speaking, if you don't see the menu, which is generally over here, you just double click on the screen and it pops up with all of this. Now, there's a lot of buttons here. You can hover over it to see what each one does. It also goes away after a couple seconds. This is where you would find the model that you will be using. What we want to do is go into settings, and then up here to webcam tracking, video and visual settings. Here we would choose our camera. For the purposes of this video, I am going to be using my Nexigo webcam. However, the type of camera that you are using, the type of webcam that you're using, does not really matter all that much, just so long as you can get it to connect to your computer. And then as we go through this, it will ask a few different things. We want this to be 1920 by 1080, 30 frames per second, and whatever the hell this means. Color format, honestly, I only have one option, so we cannot help me here. tracking quality. Depending on your computer, you may only have things like this level 0 through 5, media pipe. If you have a computer that has a NVIDIA GPU, you will see this NVIDIA tracking. Generally speaking, media pipe is pretty okay. It's kind of the basic and does well for what you need to do. However, I will be using the NVIDIA Broadcast Tracker, not the version 2 because that is in beta right now. And then you have an option to do hand tracking, but I don't have hands on my model, so we will do only face tracking. Then we want to click over here, camera on. It will say that there's this little character that pops up basically as a watermark, because I have not paid for this program, but that is okay. You will get a second little thing that pops up on your screen. I'll bring it over here so you can see this lovely face that you get to stare at. That's you. And then as well, you have a tracking thing here. In order to calibrate, you just stare at the screen and you hit calibrate, and you are pretty much good to go. Now, like I said, I'm not going to be focusing on the parameters and things like that for the purpose of this tutorial. We are just talking about webcam tracking as a type. That's all you need in order to set it up. So we are good to go. Couple of notes on webcam tracking, the pros and the cons. Webcam tracking is the cheapest version of tracking that you can have, and it does fairly well, as we can see. Basically, all that you need is a webcam. All that you need to pay for is a webcam. Mine, I believe, was $30, and I bought it on Amazon. However, the price of the webcam doesn't really matter. The quality doesn't really matter too much from what I know. It's just basically what you can find. This is the easiest way to get into VTubing. And for most people who are getting into VTubing for the very first time, this is what I would recommend if you want to try it out. Try one of the free models that comes with the program. Try webcam tracking and see how you feel about it. Move around with it and, kind of get a feeling for VTubing. Now, one thing that you may notice with this as I am talking is that there's something going on with my eyeballs. You're seeing like these random blinks and just things that I'm pretty sure you understand I am not doing in real life. One thing that I will note about webcam tracking is that it is not as good as iPhone tracking, which I will show you in a little bit so we can see the difference between the two. And that is just because of the software between webcam and iPhone. iPhone has this AR software, IR, something R, that is made only by Apple. They are not sharing with other people. And so that is going to, of course, be better because it is built for this sort of thing. As well, a note that I can say is that if you are a glasses user like me, webcam tracking is probably not going to be very good for you because the glare of lights on your glasses means that you're going to get these weird blinks like you see me doing here. In that case, like I said, webcam tracking is something that I really recommend people to try out if they are trying this for the first time in order to see whether or not they like it. However, for glasses users, I really recommend getting an iPhone because the iPhone does not pay attention to light sources. And so you don't have to worry about the glare of your glasses messing up with your webcam tracking. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I take off my glasses right now and I just yap, I say things, you might be able to see that my eyes are performing a little bit better and that we don't have those sort of weird blinks. Of course, I'm still blinking. because I, as a person, need to blink sometimes. But you'll see that there isn't that weird, like, glitching and things going on with my eyes because the webcam is currently not picking up on any glare in my glasses. Like I said, this is the cheapest, the easiest option for getting into VTubing. For a lot of people, this is going to be just like fine and they don't really need to worry. But if you find that you're getting little glitches like this eyeball tracking thing that I have been talking about, or you just want slightly better tracking, you just want to go above and beyond with your tracking, I do really recommend picking up an iPhone. It's sort of industry standard. Now, in order to do iPhone tracking, which is the type of tracking that I generally use, again, as a glasses user, it helps see through my glasses and to my eyes. Whoa. You, of course, need an iPhone. Now, the type of iPhone that you have does matter. It needs to be an iPhone X, which is a 10. I don't know. I'm an Android, or higher. And that is because Apple did not start doing their infrared tracking until the iPhone X. However, a lot of people online prefer or suggest that you should have an iPhone 11 or higher because of the battery life difference between the iPhone X and the iPhone 11. Apparently, it is significant enough that it really makes a big difference. And in any model 11 and higher, there are slight differences that make the newer iPhones a little bit better, but we're talking like maybe 1% differences, where it does not really matter if you get an iPhone 11 versus an iPhone 20,000. What are we on right now? Whereas the difference between an iPhone X and an iPhone 11 is reportedly pretty big. Now, one of the biggest barriers to iPhone tracking, of course, is going to be needing to buy this sort of tracking and the costs. I personally have an iPhone 15 that I got used for about $300 to $350. If you have an iPhone already at your house or just as your personal phone, that would work for this as well. That's a really cool, fun, cheap way that you can get into iPhone tracking. However, if you do not have an iPhone already and you need to buy one, the costs of that are going to be pretty much your most restrictive problem here. Another thing that you are going to need to go along with your iPhone, which is something that you maybe are not thinking of as something that's obvious, is you need something that you can put your iPhone in so it sits up on your desk. Now, this isn't going to be a very big cost depending on what you are getting, but some sort of phone stand so that your iPhone is staring at you. I personally just use a tripod mount that came with one of the tripods that I had bought in the past, something that I had laying around, and I was like, yeah, this is good enough, and I have yet to upgrade. Now, as for connecting your iPhone to VTube Studio, this is also going to cost you a little bit of real life money because it is a little bit more difficult. There are a couple things that you need to have in order to connect them. The first on your computer is another quote unquote game or application that you can find on Steam, which is called VBridger. This is a $10 program, so it is something that you do have to pay for. But basically, what it does is it connects your iPhone to VTube Studio through your IP address and makes it so that everything that your iPhone sees that you are doing goes through VBridger and then connects, like I said, to VTube Studio. I can pull over the window so you can see what it looks like, similar to how when I did the webcam tracking and we had that weird face that we had to look at, that I was like, this is me. This is what I look like behind the scenes. This is what I look like in VBridger. This is what I get to stare at, this little purple elf character. The final thing that we need in order to set up iPhone tracking is an app on the iPhone itself, which is called iFacial Mocap. Now, there are two different versions of iFacial Mocap. There is a free version, the trial version, and then there is also a paid for version that is $8. Now, personally, I use the free trial, and you'll hear me occasionally in videos talk about how I'm using the free trial. Really, the only difference is there are ads in the program itself. There's little banner ads that I get to stare at pretty much the entire time that I'm VTubing. If I look over there when I first connect it as well, there will be a full screen ad that you have to wait somewhere between 10 and 30 seconds for that to go away before you can skip it. It's a little bit intrusive, I will say, and occasionally when I lose tracking, I have to reset the whole thing, which takes some time in the middle of a video. However, it is not too bad, I don't think, and so I still use the trial version, even though, technically speaking, I use it enough that I should maybe just go ahead and pay the $8. Oh well. Now, believe it or not, iFacial Mocap also comes with a silly little face that you can stare at. I'm staring at myself 3 or 4 times while I'm recording. However, there are options in the settings that you can turn off the face should you want to. And generally, that is what I do. So I'm only looking at the banner ad. Shout out to Swag Bucks, I guess. Hashtag not sponsored. In order to turn off the face, you go into the settings here and you do optimize for long time streaming. It will come up with this, who cares, nobody reads, and you hit back and the face is no longer there. Now, the other thing that will pop up on the screen that I do not have currently is the IP address. When you first open this, it will come up with something at the very top that says your iPhone IP address is this number here, and that is the number that you put into VBridger so that you can connect VBridger to your iPhone. From there, the setup is again fairly simple. There is going to be a little pop-up that happens in VTube Studio itself. It won't pop up for me because I already had it pop up. That just basically asks if you want to download a plugin to connect VBridger to your VTube Studio. You say yes, you download that, and it will start showing you your face as you are moving around. Another thing to note with iPhone tracking, just fun little conversation, is that watermark that we were seeing earlier does not pop up on the screen. I think it's a bug, honestly, and that it should pop up on the screen. However, everybody just sort of doesn't pay attention to that and nobody brings it up. And I don't know if the developers know that it doesn't pop up, but nobody said anything. So as you can tell throughout this entire video, or even right now, like I said, iPhone tracking is going to be a little bit better than webcam tracking, and you're really going to have to play with it yourself in order to see whether or not you feel like you need to upgrade to iPhone tracking. However, in comparison to how we had it before, you can notice I can blink as many times as I want, and it is me actually blinking rather than any sort of bug or glitch or the glare of my glasses not interacting well with the camera. And like I said, that is because of the iPhone's hardware, the IR camera, and the secrets that Apple is keeping away from everybody else in the industry. But that is really behind the scenes all that you really need in order to start VTubing and start messing around with the program. One other thing that I want to show you guys in the next episode of this tutorial series, or the next video, or whatever we want to call it, is the parameters and making sure that your VTuber interacts with the face data from your real life face in a way that means that you don't have to overreact with your face in order to have a reaction on your VTuber model, how to set it up and how to code your VTuber model so that when you make a face, your VTuber model also makes a face. However, like I said, that is going to be in a separate video because I feel like that's just a whole separate topic. But hardware wise, that's pretty much all there is to it. The biggest problem that you're going to have is whether or not you want webcam or iPhone tracking. But otherwise, setup is fairly simple. Just basically a couple button presses and you are done and you're ready to start VTubing. Like I have been saying in my videos, I think that it's really interesting, the behind the scenes and how all of this works together. And I like being able to just have this set up and just watch my model as I'm yapping. I think it's so fun, so interesting, and hopefully this helped you see a little bit more behind the scenes of how everything is going. If you are looking to start a VTubing journey for yourself, hopefully this helped you in figuring out the very beginning starting bits and how to set up a VTuber. And I believe that is all that I need to say. Thank you for joining me on this quick video. I hope it was very informational and that you had a great time with me. And I will see you in the next one where we are going to go over setting up the VTuber itself, parameters, and facial tracking, numbers, data, whatever we want to call that. I'll see you then.